Hey traders, welcome back to another daily profit and loss recap video. Today is Wednesday, August 23rd. I just finished up trading for the morning and I was able to lock in $629 in profits. I had three really solid scalp trades this morning, all of which were winning trades, so stay tuned throughout this entire video as we're going to break down the entry points, the exit points, as well as my thought process behind the trades so that hopefully you can take something from my trading and apply it to your own. That being said, let's get right into the first trade for me. This was with the stock AMC. The reason that this was on my radar in the first place is because if we take a look at the Market Master Group trade plans, this was posted last night in the trade plans for a potential trade today. And the setup here was that this was selling off big time over the past couple of days in anticipation of the dilution. Although overall I am still bearish with this stock, it's worth eyeing for a quick bounce play on Wednesday as it's starting to reach oversold levels with a daily chart RSI of 30.24 at Tuesday's close. So because this is such a heavily short sold stock, being that it is reaching oversold levels on the daily chart, after selling off for 2 straight days, this to me was just a really solid setup for a potential squeeze back up, not necessarily a full recovery, or anything like that, but if this was going to gap down even further, from my point of view, there was going to be room to scalp 10%, maybe 20% on a bounce. So if we take a look here at the chart, this is what we were seeing happen in pre-market. Started to gap down even further, formed a little bit of a base here right around the 190 area. So if we draw that on the chart, this was the level that I was using to risk my trade off of. I took a starter position pretty much right away at the market open because it does have this nice push up through the VWAP, and I knew that buying into this move, again, I was going to be risking off of that 190 level, so I had a very small risk on this trade given that I only ended up with a total of 4,000 shares and my average cost was right around $2.04 per share. Unfortunately, I did not nail the exits as well as I would have liked to. It pushed up to a high of $2.20, but before that even happened, I locked in a portion of my profits. If you take a look at the $2.10 level right here, we can see that that is right around the high of this morning push. And on top of that, we get a little bit of a double top that starts to happen right here between about 10:05 this morning and 10:15. So at the same time, I was watching the tape, which is the level 2 in the time and sales, and I was seeing quite a bit of selling coming in at that price. So I decided to lock in a portion of my profits at 209 just in case this ended up being a rejection and it started to sell off back to the downside. I wanted to make sure that I had some profits locked in, but we end up getting a breakout through that level up to a high of 220. I was too patient to lock in profits into that push. I wanted to see this break up into the 220s and get closer to that 230 level, but it failed to break above 220, started to fade back down. And once it started to fall back underneath that 210 level, that to me was a sign that this is probably going to just continue fading. Because ideally, if this was going to continue higher, that 210 level being past resistance would have turned into support and it would have started to curl off it to the upside from there, but it failed to do so. I locked in the rest of my profits at that time and ended up with a total of $157 in profits on that trade. All right, moving on to the next one, APLS. APLS was a nice gap up this morning in pre-market. We can see has a big spike up early on, hits a high up here of $43.71, starts to fade back down a little bit into the open. But these higher price stocks, this one being of course right around $40 per share, these tend to be a little bit more favorable for a gap and go, especially in the current market conditions when compared to lower price stocks. So that alone was kind of why I was looking at this for a gap and go this morning. If we take a look at the 1-minute chart, we can see kind of where our opening range breakout level is going to be. Lately, I've been using the 3-minute time frame for the opening range breakout level, so I look for the high and the low of that first 3 minutes of price action. In this case, the high is going to be $41.80. So that is going to be our opening range breakout level. I took a starter position into that breakout. At the time, it was only a few hundred shares because I knew that buying up here near $42, I was going to have to risk at least a couple dollars per share since the morning lows are down here in the 39s. So I didn't want to go in with 1,000 shares right off the bat and then have to potentially risk losing $2,000 or more if it started to fade back down to my risk level. So once we get this false breakout here above the opening range breakout level, it starts to pull back into the VWAP, and we can see we get this really strong bounce straight off of it. At that time, I decided to add some more shares into this trade. Ended up with a total of 700 shares. My average price was right around $41.60. And what you may be noticing is that following that, we can see the 42.50 area starts to act as a little bit of resistance. We get a double top right there in the area. So once I saw that happening, I decided to lock in a portion of my profits up into these peaks up here. And just a few minutes later, we get this quick false breakout to a little bit over $43 per share. It gets rejected straight back down, and then we can see pretty clearly here for about 10 minutes or so, it trades right between the $41.50 and $42 area. But that $42 level starts to act as resistance pretty strongly. We can see here on the 5-minute chart, there are 3 candlesticks in a row where it spikes up to 42, rejects back down, up to 42, rejects back down, and up to 42 again, and a big rejection back down, this time through the VWAP. So I was noticing that happening in real time, obviously being that I had a position in this stock. I was watching the price action, I was watching the level 2 and the time in sales once again. So I was starting to notice that area turn into a bit of resistance, and that was kind of my red flag to sell out of the rest of my shares. And obviously in hindsight, I'm glad to have done so because it did end up selling off a bit to the downside. So on that trade, I ended up with $345 in profits. In all honesty, even though this was a profitable trade, it was not necessarily a great trade because my risk on the trade was probably going to be significantly more than that $345 that I actually profited. And generally speaking, I like to try to keep my risk to a minimum when compared to my profit or my potential reward on the trade. Alright, but with all of that being said, the third trade for me today was with ITOS. This was another gap up this morning in pre-market. Very simple setup, looking for the opening range breakout. If we take a look at the 1-minute chart, we have ourselves an opening range breakout level of right about $16.89. So if we draw that breakout level, so as the price starts to push above that opening range breakout level, I took a starter position in this trade. I only ended up with a starter position. I didn't really like the price action that much, so I never added more shares into the trade. But when it comes to selling and locking in profits, I locked in a portion of my profits as it pushed up into the pre-market highs here. The pre-market high was $17.78. Just a few minutes after I got into this trade, it hit a high of $17.71, and it started to kind of just chop around a bit in that area. That's where I locked in a portion of my profits. Pretty much the same exit that I've had on my other 2 trades for the day. I missed out on the breakout to the upside. It was very quick and short-lived. So once it started to then come back down, and it started to break back down underneath the VWAP, I sold the rest of my shares for a very small profit. Ended up with a total of $125 in profits on this trade, which brought my overall profits for the day up to $629. So I think the lesson and the takeaway for me today with my trading was that even though the market conditions are not very favorable for trading breakouts at this time, that is kind of what I'm most comfortable doing. That's always been my focus with my trading. So there really isn't a need to switch up my strategy very much. I can continue to do so. I just have to be a little bit quicker to lock in profits than I probably would like to be. And I think I did a really solid job of that today. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you found some value in this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to hear about these stocks that I'm trading in real time, as well as work with our team of traders, get access to our day trade and swing trade alerts, our detailed trade plans, our live custom scanner streams, and so on and so forth, all of that can be found in the Market Master group. There's going to be a link down below in the description for you to get signed up. But thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.